As I'm sure you know by now, this is a part of the show. We've given you an idea of the stories that you should know about, but aren't necessarily on your front pages. A row is brewing between a not-for-profit news organization and a recently formed civil society group. Now, the United Civil Society in Action, composed of members from several NGOs, that says that those who benefit from the Lotto funding shouldn't necessarily be published, and they want to stop the ground-up publication and the National Lotteries Commission from publishing those details of Lotto beneficiaries. They say such information is private and should only be accessed with the consent of the parties involved or through a court order. They accuse the publication, Ground-Up that is, of being in cahoots with the National Lottery Commission in their publication of the information and have approached the courts to remove the details of beneficiaries from the public domain. Tebogo Sithathu is spokesperson of the United Civil Society in Action group and joins us now via Zoom for more on this. Tebogo is in Johannesburg. Tebogo, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. Perhaps at the start, let's take a few steps back and give you an opportunity to explain for many people who aren't able necessarily to join the dots why this is an important issue. Give us a sense of, some of the reasons why you're pursuing this.
Good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers of the newsroom. I think this is critical because of what we are doing is to defend the law. We are exercising our constitutional mandate and responsibility to defend the legality of what is happening currently. So, and I think, let me start here. Let's unpack this thing because of Ground-Up has for so long conflated issues wherein they paint a picture, they lie to the public, they lie to South Africans to say that there is lack of transparency. We have to put it categorically clear. We are for transparency, we are for a lawful society, we are for a fight against corruption. However, corruption cuts across the board. When somebody steals information of beneficiaries without their consent and publishes it and puts their life in danger, then we have a problem. And this is where Ground-Up has been criminal in its actions for many years, actually. It doesn't start now. We had to take action now to use our constitutional rights through jurisprudence to stop them in their tracks because they don't respect the law. What they do, you see, there are processes of acquiring information. There's nothing wrong with that. And the Act is quite clear. You can only publish such information if you got consent from the consent organizations and people. Number two, if Parliament or the Court of Law requests for such information, it should be made available. So, but they paint the picture as if the National Lottery does not want to actually publish that information, but they're actually stealing the information. And why they are respondents number one in our case is because they've been publishing this information illegally after stealing it. And the NLC is found wanting here because of they are supposed to be our custodians of our information. So, but in terms of covering and making sure that they protect our information, their systems seem to be porous. So that's why they are respondents number two. So we are gunning for both Ground-Up and for the National Lottery for being irresponsible,
right.
Whether
And you say that Ground-Up and the National Lottery are actually in cahoots. In fact, my understanding, you say there's an agenda here. Why do you say that? I mean, and what agenda are you referring to?
Well, let's clarify. They're not so much so in cahoots. They are, because of when you say, my understanding of cahoots is that these people are working together. They're not working together. It's very clear. Because of Ground-Up is stealing information from the National Lottery. That's why we are gunning for them. But then the National Lottery is being irresponsible or having its systems being cracked by whether employees or somebody leaking that information illegally. And I want to emphasize again, we are not against information being published, but you've got to do it within the frameworks of the law. So what Groundup does actually is criminal to the highest level, and they need to be stopped. And I want to mention something also. There's a trend here where it's only been Groundup for the last 5 years publishing information about beneficiaries without their consent and stealing such information. And they've done that consistently to a point where they have run out of stories and they keep recycling the very same story. So they are trying to paint a picture about the National Lottery and the brand, and they are tarnishing its image. Say, for argument's sake, if there's somebody or some people who are corrupt within the National Lottery, the law should take its course. We've got a criminal justice system in the country. But why one media house consistently? And I'm actually glad that you as Newzroom and other media houses, since we started the court case, you're becoming parties and you're taking keen interest in this case. Because there's also an agenda and a motive. Some people in the corner have met and they have planned to actually deal a blow to the brand that is the NLC, which is unfair for even some of the majority of very good people in the NLC that are doing their job properly without being corrupt are also being tarnished, are also being compromised.
Right.
Another point I must mention, the minister is very silent. And silence means consent. If the minister is not saying either or, we're not saying the minister should disband the board, and neither are we saying the minister should dismiss the board. We're saying, minister, pronounce, be a leader, pronounce on the issue and give leadership. But if you are so quiet, you are allowing one Groundup media house that is so small, that is using its power and network in the media to paint a wrong picture and playing politics with the DA. Also, the DA is in the picture.
Right, okay.
So then we have a very serious problem there.
Yeah, all right.
So
I do have to interrupt you there, Tebogo. Thanks very much for giving us your take. It goes without saying that we're going to give Groundup a right of reply following the slew of allegations you've made, but I think it touches on critical issues around, I guess, the publication and access to information and whether or not there are public interests that are being safeguarded in that process. So let me thank you for now for your time. I imagine we'll touch base with you and your organization throughout the course of the story's developments. Tebogo Sithathu is, of course, with the United Civil Society in Action, and they're, of course, speaking out against the the publicizing of some of the beneficiaries in the National Lottery. Tebogo, let me thank you again for your time.